Welcome to A Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. The Bible tells one big story of redemption, and we want to spend 5 minutes every day journeying through the Bible from start to finish and exploring how all of it points to Jesus.
Hey everybody, welcome back to A Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. My name is Jenny, and today we are discussing Esther 4-6. Yesterday we were introduced to Esther, who was a Jewish woman chosen to be queen over all of Persia. After she became queen of Persia, we also learned that due to an evil man named Haman, the king decreed that all Jews be killed. However, when we left off yesterday, Esther was not yet aware of the decree, and it was up to her cousin, Mordecai, to take action. Today we see that when Mordecai heard of the plot to kill the Jews, his first response, along with many other Jews, was to lament. He tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, covered himself with ashes, and went into the town square, weeping over the decree. During this time, Esther also found out about the decree, and she and Mordecai began to message back and forth to one another. Mordecai pleaded with Esther to talk to the king about the decree, but Esther responded that if she attempted to talk to the king without being summoned, and she had not been summoned, then she would be put to death. However, Mordecai responded in truth that if she did not attempt to help the Jews, then help would come from somewhere else. He could say this confidently because he likely knew that the Lord promised Abraham he would bless the Jewish people, and Mordecai trusted that God would be faithful to fulfill his word in preserving the Jewish people. Mordecai's trust in God's providence is perhaps most evident when he tells Esther, "Who knows, perhaps you have come to your royal position for such a time as this." Mordecai's plea inspires Esther to take action, even if it means that she will die as a result. As mentioned before, going before the king uninvited was dangerous, and Esther's life was at stake when she chose to enter that room. But the text tells us that Esther found favor with the king, and she invited the king to a banquet instead of making her request known immediately. Meanwhile, Haman was making plans to kill Mordecai and constructing gallows to carry out his evil desires. However, God works for the good of those who love and follow him. So while Haman was constructing the means for Mordecai's death, the king, plagued by a sleepless night, was reminded of how Mordecai saved his life. The king asked Haman for his opinion on the very best way to honor a man. The wicked Haman assumed that the king was going to honor him. Imagine his shock when he finished explaining his elaborate plans only to be told to carry them out for Mordecai. Even if you don't know the ending to this story, you can probably guess what's coming. That said, you will have to come back tomorrow to hear the conclusion of this incredible story. In the meanwhile, it is important to reflect on how God's providence is evident in this book. God was working behind the scenes to save his people and bring about the promised redemption. And perhaps what is most incredible is that he uses ordinary people to fulfill his plans. This is one of the lessons that you can take away today. God is sovereign over all. And like Mordecai explained, even if you do not choose to obey what he is asking you to do, he will still be faithful to fulfill his promises, even if he has to use someone else to do it. So whatever God is asking of you today, take courage. Perhaps you were created for such a time as this. Well, that's all for today. As always, thank you so much for joining us on our journey through the Bible in a year. Also, be sure to follow along on Instagram at The Daily Grace Podcast and at The Daily Grace Co. And check out our website, thedailygraceco.com, for all kinds of resources to help you dive deeper into God's Word. On the website, you can find our Story Redemption study and journals to accompany this podcast. You can also always find resources to accompany the podcast at thedailygracepodcast.com. Finally, if you enjoyed today's episode and are excited to come back tomorrow, Will you just take a moment and leave us a rating or a review on iTunes to help more people find the show? Thanks so much, and we look forward to finishing up the book of Esther tomorrow. Have a great day.